we're holding. I believe it's footnote number 29.
It's footnote number 29, law 5, footnote number 29.
Ah, it is 29. Okay. Hold on a second. Let me get the page up. Okay. We're going to wait for Rebecca to get back to the questions that she asked about the bus card, credit card, magnetic clip. Not that I have that many answers for her, but we'll get back to that discussion. To Rebecca's question, Mir Tashem, when she comes back on. So we were learning about the laws of kalim, of vessels, that utensils that are specifically used to do work that is forbidden on Shabbos, like hammers, axes, but can be used for other things, like to use a hammer to break open here is Rebecca, to break open a walnut, etc. So if it's muktzeh machmas gufa, hey Rebecca, if it's muktzeh machmas gufa, and you have a permissible use, when you're allowed to use it, then if you pick it up, if you're allowed to use it, and then if you could continue to walk with it. So we're holding. I'm just going to actually quickly read the law one more time quickly. Utensils that are shem yuchadim la'asis menuchah hasura b'Shabbos, utensils that are mainly used for forbidden use, like machteshes, rechaim, kornas, patish, kardom, machpedish, machpadim, esabayis, different things that are used for forbidden use. In those days, a broom was forbidden because it would make holes in the ground. Shofar, menorah, macha, chetofrim by needles, neir shleimim, whole candles, whether chaylev, whether shaiva, whether they're made out of wax or fat. Psilis mitzemer, gefen, wicks out of cotton. We've did this law, so we're just going to go through it quickly. Beged shatnez, clothing that's forbidden to wear, that's made up of wool and linen. Sha'asel levaisha, you can't wear it, so these are not permissible things. Anything like this, if you need them, then you can use that. You could carry them. Like according to the if you need a hammer to break open nuts that you would like to eat on Shabbos, or use like a saw, something that you would use to cut to open up something of food. Machet lita sakaitz, a full shlema, a needle that you could take out a coat is a splinter. If it's taken, if it's not a full, if it's taken, if its point, its eye or its point is broken, then it's forbidden because it's not a full utensil, like a broken candle. We're going to learn next sif. Also, if you needed space, if it's taking up a space that you need the space itself, or if it's in a place that you need its space. Like if a hammer is somewhere, you want to use that space. Because you picked it up, or by mistake you picked it up. You shouldn't have picked it up, but you picked it up. It's ready in your hand. So then you can already carry it to where you need to take it. This is going to come into the question that Rebecca asked about carrying credit cards or bus cards for transportation. But just for their own sake, which is not because you need them to use for something or you don't need its space. For their own sake, meaning not to use them for something. For instance, you want to pick up something that shouldn't get stolen, or yiskalkalu, or shouldn't get damaged. So you're trying to protect the forbidden item, utensil, then it's also a talton, you cannot carry it. Now, tefillin, phylacteries, men's tefillin, gamkein. A famous joke when I was in Seattle, we had a comedian who said that you say that the yeshiva boys, when I was a kid, that's how we would ask it. You meet someone on the street, you'd like to put on phylacteries. He said, I think it was Theodor Burkel. He said, if trust me, if someone doesn't know what tefillin are, they definitely don't know what phylacteries are. But either way, tefillin gamkin asur and lataltal is also forbidden to carry. We don't use tefillin on Shabbos. Achim menachim b'makim bizayin, but if the tefillin are in a disrespectful place, that's not, it has to be moved, or sheyachal islachlech could get dirty, then you could carry to put them in a place of protected space. They won't get damaged. Okay, this is the law we learned last week. Now we're middle of Barbara reminded us we're in footnote number 29. So what about we're talking about to handle things that are solely for itself, so it shouldn't get stolen, right? Then it's forbidden. So So he says, where a great loss is involved, you may place something permissible such as bread or silverware. So the bread or the silverware is something you can carry on the object that you're scared is going to get stolen, and handle them together, because then you become kind of, you're carrying both a joint permissible and forbidden item, and you're using, so to say, even the forbidden item as a tray to carry the permissible. So says the Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Alter Rebbe in 308:22 in the Laws of Shabbos. Minchas Shabbos stipulates that this allowance does not apply to a money bag. Means if you have a money bag and you don't want people to steal it, you can't put a piece of bread or silverware and then can't use it to carry. I guess a money bag is more intensely something forbidden as being money. Now, let's just do footnote number 30 and 31, and see if 30 is just a footnote, it's just a reference. 31 is to put them in a secure place. Okay. You may also move tefillin to prevent them from being stolen. Means he said that you could only move the tefillin if you are concerned that tefillin will get damaged by the dirt or what have you. Or if someone put the tefillin in the bathroom, let's say, God forbid. So, but you also may move the tefillin to prevent them from being stolen. So says the Pri Megadim, one of the commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch. However, the Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Alter Rebbe, disagrees with the Pri Megadim and disallows handling tefillin where the potential thief is a Jew. We have to look into the text. I'm sure there's a reason for that. The addition of the thief being a Jew. Why that would make it forbidden to move, whether it's because we have to look into the text for that. But it's the Alter Rebbe says that if you're scared another Jew will take the tefillin. I was telling my cousin came from Los Angeles, and his son left the tefillin on the bus. And I said, listen, I don't know about other things, but tefillin do not get stolen in Eretz Yisrael. He left on a bus in Sfas. Israel is a big country. The Egged system is a huge bus system. Millions of people use the bus system a day. I said, your son's tefillin will show up. It'll take a day, it could take a week, it could take a month. Your son's tefillin will show up. And sure enough, of course, he sent me a picture a few days ago that his son's tefillin showed up in the last of founds. People don't steal tefillin. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, if you're scared another Jew's going to steal tefillin, that's not, you can't put away the tefillin. Okay. That should be looked into for the reasoning. I'm sure the reasoning is something along the line of accusing a Jew of stealing tefillin. Now, Rebecca asked a question about seemingly a very simple question, which is, if you live in a city in of Erev and you want to go for Shabbos somewhere for a long distance or whatever, and you want to be able to get back home by public transportation or what another way, can you carry a credit card or let's say a bus card or a subway card on your person in any way, so then you could, after Shabbos, be able to take the public transportation home, right? That was your question, Rebecca, right?
Yes, and the card itself doesn't have to be very valuable. It could have just like $3 on it, like one
Okay.
bus fare.
Okay, as much as I try to get an answer to your question, my usual source for a simple answer says he has to be Ma'ayin. I asked him a few times this week. I spoke to Rabbi Danny Weiss, who's the author of Shulchan Aruch HaKotzer, a big Talmud Chacham. I saw him yesterday in Shul. I took advantage, I asked him some questions on our Megillah class of yesterday about the tefillah of Chsoy V'chaim Tavim L'chol B'nei B'Sach according to Tosfos. He had tip of his fingers. He knew the Tosfos, and he knew the even when I was asking about the Keshem, he says yes. The Muktzeh Vitri quotes the Keshem, which we say so that some people would say in the Alanisim. And I asked him this question, Rebecca's question, that he was less comfortable to answer. I found online a Rav that I know, who's a well-known American Rav. I decided not to post this video. A well-known American Rav who gives smicha, who quoted the Rav Rashi in Eretz Yisrael about Rebecca's question. I have a feeling there was a misunderstanding in the language. Being an American Rav with an Israeli Rav, it could be there was a mistranslation in the question. He understood the Rav to say that if you're going to the Kotel on Shabbos, right? So first of all, the Kotel, I believe, I never taken advantage of the service, but I believe that the Kotel, but from the Kotel, the buses for the first while is free. That if you go to the Kotel on Shabbos, the buses that come to the Kotel think the 2, the 3, the 38 maybe, they're free for the first hour after Shabbos. So those people go to the Kosel can have a ride home. But first of all, it doesn't apply to the trains. That I don't believe applies to the trains. And aside for that, people may want to go other places, maybe take a taxi. So he says that Rav Rashi said that you're allowed to carry your credit card, your bus card, in your shoe on Shabbos. And it's not a question of carrying. So he seemingly was addressing the issue of carrying, because you're carrying a credit card on Shabbos, and so you carry it in your shoe. The reason why I think it's lost in translation is because there's an Erev in Yerushalayim. So why would he be saying a situation where there's an Erev, where there's no question of carrying to the Kotel? Unless he was giving an example of the Kotel if it didn't have an Erev. I believe maybe the question was like Rebecca asked, if it's Muktzeh. And
So, sorry,
hold on.
yeah.
Let me just finish what he said. So he said that you could carry it in your shoe and then use it after Shabbos. So this Rav said he understood that. So he asked, he met the chief rabbi the next day, he happened to, and he asked him, if that's the case, why can't you put money in your shoe? You could also put cash, $10 in your shoe and put and walk with it on Shul and Shabbos, and it's not carrying, and then use the money after Shabbos. It's codified. It's typical way of carrying. Pocket would be its typical place, but the shoe would be not. So he said, you can't. I wasn't at that conversation. I still believe there's some sort of loss in translation. Rabbi Avi Weiss told me that he said that he feels that maybe Rabbi Avad Yosef is very makel klachar yad. There's two questions here. There's a question of carrying and there's a question of muktzeh. So it seemed like you were talking about the question of carrying, not muktzeh. And even though money for sure is muktzeh, but if it's in your shoe, now obviously you can't put it in your shoe on Shabbos. Even the credit card, if it's not muktzeh, you can put it on Shabbos because then you're preparing on Shabbos. But let's say you decided for whatever reason to put your credit card in your shoe a whole Shabbos, or if you have an Erev and you don't have to put it in your shoe, you could put it in your pocket, right? Could you put a credit card or a bus card in your pocket on Erev Shabbos, and then use it on Motzei Shabbos? I haven't found a clear answer. Just to break down the issues, Rebecca, and Aaron, hold on, I see you went on mute. I want you to wait until I finish, please. The questions are like this. A credit card, Danny Weiss said a credit card doesn't fall under what we're going to learn in law number 6, which is Muktzeh machmas chasaron kis. The thinking maybe was Muktzeh machmas chasaron kis means something you wouldn't use because it's valuable or it's important, that you wouldn't use it for something else, right? Like for instance, if you're a mohel, if you're someone who circumcises, right? So your knife that you use for circumcision it's not just valuable because of money, but it's also important. You wouldn't use it for anything else. You wouldn't use it to cut tomatoes. And you wouldn't use, if you're a shochet, you wouldn't use your knife to cut tomatoes. Why? Because it's a special tool used for a special job, and you don't use it outside the job at all. And therefore, it could get damaged, and you're not ready to take the risk. So it's called Muktzeh machmas chasaron kis. It doesn't have to be something that's valuable millions of dollars. It doesn't have to be a Rolex watch. It has to be something that you don't want to use for something else because you don't want it to be damaged. Now, a credit card, he said, a person wouldn't use a credit card usually for something else because you don't want to damage it. But he says you wouldn't say that about a credit card because a credit card has no value at all. All you have to do is call up the bank and they send you another one. It doesn't cost you anything to get another credit card. Okay. So therefore, he felt it wouldn't be chasaron kis on a credit card. A Rav-Kav, which is a bus card, which Rebecca was talking about, is a little different. Because if you lose your Rav-Kav, then it's not something you could get. You first of all, you have to buy in Israel at least. You have to pay to get a new card, and even if you get the card for free, like Rebecca says, there's money on it. If you lose the card, you lose the value of the money. So it could be that the Rav card would fall under Muktzeh machmas chasaron kis. Now, then the question becomes: let's say the credit cards, or these are all Muktzeh. So to have it in your pocket would probably be something that's not allowed. But maybe if this rabbi understood Rabbi Avad Yosef's son right, but he said clearly money, the Rabbi Rashi right. So to put it in something like your shoe, which is not a typical way of carrying, is mamash klachar yad, he could always carry muktzeh. Now we just learned that if you pick up something that's muktzeh machmas gufay, You could hold on to it until you put it down, but you can't hold on to it indefinitely. There's a question, how long could you hold on to something until you put it down? You could either put it down right away, or you could walk a little bit to put it down. But to say that you could have something in your pocket that's muktzeh a whole day until Motzei Shabbos, that's a stretch. Or even in your shoe, if it's muktzeh to have it a whole day, that's another question. If it's not muktzeh, if the credit cards are not muktzeh or the bus cards are not muktzeh, I'm not sure how that would be possible. At least not machmas gufay. Maybe not chasam kis, but machmas gufay would. I can't see how it's any different than a candle. So then it's a question of carrying, and it's a question of hachana. So if there's no erev, it's not a problem of carrying, and you've put it in your pocket before Shabbos, it's not a problem of hachana. So then possibly you can have a credit card in your pocket and walk around with it whole Shabbos and then use it after Shabbos. It's definitely not Shabbosdik, but the Rabbi Rashi said if he understood right that to put it in your shoe would be permissible for carrying and be permissible for muktzah because he said money also. So I mean, and Rabbi Danny Weiss says that there's a yisod for this. That he says the Yabia Omer Rabbi Vad Yosef is a maker when it comes to klach even for muktzah carrying. So I don't have a clear answer for your question, and I didn't. The one posik who I would rubber stamp anything he says, didn't get back to me. Says it's a question. I don't know why it's not a question that's been more readily discussed because it's something like you said, it happens all the time. But that's my answer. So I don't know if I got. There's definitely who to be Saimachan. If the Rav Rashi said you can, you can. But I still think there's questions that I didn't hear it from the Rav Rashi. I heard it secondhand, but also from a Rav. The person who said it over was a Rav, but I think there was some sort of lost translation there. Yes, Rebecca. And then,
Thank you so much for researching this. I really appreciate it. Let's say, assuming the person lives in a place where there is an Eruv and the Eruv is accepted, would it be better to carry that card in their bag instead of on their person, like if it's muktzah?
No, because then it would be a bus as a davar aser. If you could carry it, you could carry it. It seems that Rabbi Vad Yosef from what he was explaining was that there's a difference between carrying in your pocket, which is a typical way of carrying something muktzah, or carrying it like in your shoe. If you ask someone, where do you keep a credit card? They can say my bag or my pocket, right? Depending where you keep your wallet. You ask a person, do you keep a credit card in your shoe or your sock? They'll say, no, that's not a regular way. So that's called klach. So if you're saying that klach, meaning a non-typical way of carrying something, and we're not talking about carrying for tiltul, we're talking about carrying of muktzah, is permissible. So then carrying in your bag and your pocket wouldn't be the way to do it, but to put it in your sock or your shoe.
Okay.
If you're saying it's not muktzah and the question is only carrying, so then it would be an issue of then we'd be talking only about so in a place where there's an air, if you have no problem.
Okay, I just thought maybe it's better if it's not touching your person if it's muktzah, but you just said
If
no.
it's muktzah, then it has to be carried klachiyat. So you would have to carry in a non-typical way.
Got it.
If it's not muktzah and the question is carrying and you have an air, then it's not a problem.
Okay. Can I just say what I did was I got into a cab after Shabbos, and as soon as I got in, I told the driver, "Look, my Sabbath just ended and I don't have any money on me, but if you could please leave the meter running, I'll go upstairs and get my credit card and bring it back down."
Yeah.
And he said,
And he said, sure. Some people would say yes. Some people
yeah,
say
one time I had a problem. One time the driver got annoyed, but he still did it anyway. But this time, thank God, I had a really nice driver and he was totally fine with it. But a lot of other people who were at this Shabbaton I went to were carrying, people who came from the east side to the west side were carrying their bus card. So I just wanted to know what the story, if that's okay, or what the story was with
so.
that.
Again, it seems like again, if Rabbi Vad Yosef's son, if the chief rabbi, this is the chief rabbi, not talking about small people, and the person who said over the story is also Rav who gives smicha. So if we're talking about these are rabbanim, but he was quoting someone else. If the understanding is correct, so there is no question of muktzah. The question is only of carrying. So then carrying wouldn't be a problem to keep in your pocket. If it's a question of muktzah and that's the issue, then you would have to carry in a non-typical way, which would not be your pocket or your bag. And seemingly, there's I'll immediately on who to be soimach. I would prefer to have a clear psak, clear that I understand. Hold on, Aaron. I'd prefer to have a clear psak. And I'm going to wait to hear from the person that I'm waiting from. When I hear it, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Aaron.
Okay, so I'm just gonna make a couple of ways this could happen. So you forgot that it was in your pocket, or you took the wrong jacket, or like she said, you need it. Okay, so most people don't live in Jerusalem, and so you're not walking to the hotel. You go into a shul. Someone invited you for to stay over there. So now you got to the shul. So I would just ask the rabbi, and the rabbi would say, "Put it in my office after Shabbat. We'll get it."
Yeah, but you're asking another question. You're asking about someone who
Not
forgot.
really asking a question. I'm telling you the solution is
Oh,
that most
but you're talking a solution about that. That's not direct question to what we're talking about. Here we're talking about a
you're
person
talking about
who have the
carrying it. Can
credit.
you carry it
The
or not?
person
Why
wants
would
to have
you?
the credit card. The person
But
wants the
why?
credit from them.
But let's just say this. Like, just for instance, one time I had something in my pocket that was valuable because I took the wrong jacket, or for whatever reason I forgot to take it out before Shabbos. Walking to the shul, it's not Shabbos, so I was okay. But going home after the night prayers for Shabbos would be a problem. So I went up. It's my rabbi, but I would have done this in any shul. So I went to the rabbi. He says, "Stick it in my office after Shabbos. You'll go and get it."
That's exactly what you should be doing. But
But can I
you were
just say
talking about,
we're talking about I was asking about a situation where someone is walking one way on Shabbos and then they want to be able to take the bus home after
yes,
Shabbos.
yes. What Aaron's mentioned is a totally different scenario. You're talking about forgetting something in your pocket, which that's the correct.
No, but you could be same thing as hers. What if I needed my credit card? I'm not in the vicinity of this shul. I within a couple of miles from the shul, so I take a bus. But someone invited me to stay at their house, so I could go to the shul and go to their house for eating. Whatever this. Okay, so now I need my bus card. So I go to the shul that he belongs to. I go to the rabbi, I say, "Hey, I need this bus card after Shabbos. I can't carry it on Shabbos. What can I do?" He'll say, "Put it in my office."
That of course is your best solution. Here we're talking about someone who's not coming to the shul before Shabbos, is walking to the shul on Shabbos, walking the 3 miles and doesn't want to walk them back. So
So why do they need the card then? Because they'll walk back. Oh, you're
they
saying they'll
don't
be
want
too
to walk
tired.
back. They want to take a train back. So they walk to the shul. Let's say they live on the Lower East Side and they want to go to the Upper East Side.
Gotcha.
So they want to walk. So they have their credit card or their bus pass in their pocket. They do whatever they're doing, the Shabbos event, the Shabbaton, whatever is happening during the Shabbos. And on Motzei Shabbos, they don't want to walk back. They want to take a train back.
Okay, so make the least amount. So this is just my opinion, and may be wrong, but so I'm making the mistake of carrying it. Okay, but I did carry it because I need it.
We're not examining if someone made a mistake. We're examining if it's permissible initially. When
Okay,
we're
but
asking
now that I
halacha,
got there,
is the person allowed to put the credit card or the bus card before Shabbos? To put it on Shabbos is preparing for Shabbos. To put the bus card in your pocket or your person, if it's not Muktzeh, on Shabbos, before Shabbos, you walk with it to your event. You go, you Motzei Shabbos, you finish, you take your bus card, go home, and that's it. We're not talking
oh,
about a case where someone's forgetting. When someone wants to know the halacha. How is it possible for me to make sure that I have, if I leave in middle of Shabbos, not before Shabbos, in middle of Shabbos, to be able to go back with public
I
transportation,
got you.
taxi or
But
whatever.
then you can't be on the public transportation
We're talking
if
about Motzei
it's in the
Shabbos.
middle of Shabbos.
You're on Motzei. It's not a complicated case, Aaron. You're middle of Shabbos.
Okay.
You're walking up to a place for a long distance, and after Shabbos is over. You want to take the public transportation home.
Okay, I got you. So you're just asking for the little bit because once I got there, I would have said, "I'm just going to leave it with the rabbi."
Okay, yeah, but we're talking about a person who's planning to do this event, planning to
Okay,
walk and wants to
I
take the
got you.
train
You're
back. Yeah.
looking for the details on the situation, even though there may be a better way.
So the Rav Rashi, the chief rabbi, said, for instance, you could put money in your shoe before Shabbos, walk around the whole Shabbos with it, come Motzei Shabbos, take out the money and pay the taxi and go home. Same thing would apply with the credit card and with the bus card. If the question is carrying, if the question is Muktzeh, presumably it would be the same thing because
Okay, but now here's the problem.
if you're in a place that has no eruv, you're in a place that and money. So money has two issues. Money's for sure Muktzeh, right? We just said before, money bags are even worse than other things. So
Yeah,
money's
but listen to this. Now
Hold on,
just came
Aaron.
up with something.
Hold on a second, Aaron. So money's muktzeh, and if you're in a place without an air, you're carrying. So you have two things. You're carrying and muktzeh on Shabbos. So he says you could put it in your shoe. If
Okay, but now,
if the bus card is not muktzeh,
no,
so
but let's
you
forget
would be able
about
to put it in your pocket. That's all.
everything you said was correct. But now you're getting ready for bed and you want to take off your shoes and socks. Now the money's in there, so you got to touch it.
You're not touching it. Why do you have to touch it? It's in the base of the shoe.
Yeah, but you're taking off your shoe. And
So
what
what?
if
You're
it's
not.
in your
It's in your
okay,
shoe.
so you're saying you
It's,
can leave it
it's
in your
under your
shoe.
spear.
That's
It's under it's where the toes are. I mean, it's not. This is not. We're not talking about complicated scenarios.
okay. I'll
Okay.
leave it at that.
Rebecca, what's your follow-up question?
This is a little bit related. Tell me if it's like too far off, but so I live like a little like far from the area where like my friends live and the Shabbos meals are and everything. So if I take a cab up there before Shabbos and then like I ended up taking too much money with me and then there's extra cash and I can't find a pushka, what am I supposed to do with it? Just hide it somewhere
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah,
shul?
yeah. You can't keep that on you. That's definitely not. I
Right,
mean,
right. Yeah, but like if
I
I
mean,
can't find a pushka,
if according to the chief rabbi that before Shabbos you could put money in your shoe to carry so then it's not carrying, it's klachiyat. Maybe you could put it in your shoe and take it home, and then but then you can't take it like Aaron says. The problem is then you. I again, this is called YouTube halacha, which is like Rabbi Danny Weiss says he doesnn't like YouTube halacha, though we're on YouTube here. But the question is you have to see the text. So, but he said that I heard it from a reliable Rav who said he's quoting the chief rabbi that says you could do it. I didn't see the full argument and reasoning of it, and I try to check it with others. I don't have a clear picture, so there's a lot of questions here. I'm going to leave it as a tzarchian, but yesh lismoch means
I'm just gonna
hold on, Aaron, until I call on you, please. There's things. I mean, tzarchian means that I still don't understand clearly the law, but if you want to be saimach, there's what to be saimach. I want to be
but
reliant.
he was talking about cash? You could put cash in your shoe?
He said cash. That's what it said.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes, Aaron.
just a suggestion. I told you this once. My son's teacher, a rabbi, started a halakhapedia. So after class, you could look up halakhapedia and look up the question and see if it's in there.
I'm going to leave that job to you, Aaron.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's go further. Law number 6. Muktzeh machmas chsankis. Something that is muktzeh because of monetary loss. Dahainu. How do we define that? Muktzeh machmas chsankis. It says muktzeh machmas chsankis is dvorim, things, sha'adam mikatze midaite lishtamish behem. Things like this. These include things that are set aside not to be used because of your concern, lest they become defective. So that's it is. It doesn't have Chazorim Kis, for instance, where Rebecca was asking about a Ravkav, which is a bus card that has $5 in it. So you can say, what's $5? It's $5. It's a value. As long as the definition is that mikatza midaitu lishtamish, things that you cut out means you set aside in your head. I will not use them because I don't want it to get damaged. The why and the value is not important. I mean, it's a question of your mind. You've set up, you've made the decision not to use it because of its value, whatever that value is. So mikatza midaitu lishtamish b'mipnei shu makbid alem shlo yiskalkali. You don't want it to get damaged. Kegoin. Now he gives examples. Kli umanus shemakbid alem shlo yipagmu. If you have work utensils that you don't want them to get damaged, so you won't use them for anything else. You won't crack a nut with them. Your hammer, you don't care to crack a nut. But something that's delicate, that you want it to remain in good condition, and you would never use for something else. Why? Because you don't want it to get damaged. It's called muksma machmas chasan kis. Doesn't again because you have to start with where the muktzeh is. Muktzeh means something that's set aside. It's set aside because of the value, which means that what makes it prohibited to touch on Shabbos is the fact that you set it aside. Why did you set it aside? because you don't want it to get damaged. So therefore, you would never be able to use it because there would never be a scenario you would use these things because then they would get damaged. So therefore, before Shabbos means when your hammer, even if you didn't consciously set your hammer aside, right? You don't go through your house and stop and say, okay, I have these 1,000 things in my house, right? Every single tiny thing in your house. So 99% of them I'm setting aside for Shabbos because I'm not going to use them. Like a hammer, let's say I'm not building on Shabbos, sorry, I'm putting certain things that by definition they're set aside. By their use, they're set aside. A hammer's main use is to knock it to build. You don't build on Shabbos, so it's on its own, it's set aside. However, even a hammer that's been set aside, it does have a permissible use to break open a walnut. So therefore, if you want to break over a walnut, it was never set aside for breaking over a walnut. But something that has a value, you would never use it for anything. Why? Because you don't want it to get damaged. So therefore, the Torah set it aside. It doesn't mean you have to sit down and set it aside, but it's been set aside for its value, and therefore you can never use it because you would never use it. Now that you want to pick it up and say, "Oh, I want to break a hammer, I want to break a walnut with it," that's not the accurate situation. Okay. V'sakin, for instance, v'sakin shemsakin and bayisakulmas. Those days, and that's how expensive could this be? It's probably something very cheap. But those days, they didn't have what they have today, a sharpener, right? They had those little very sharp knives that you sharpened your pencil with. It was only used to sharpen pencils. It's not used for anything else. And therefore, that's at least what in those days. So therefore, that's something that's been set aside for chasar and kis. Sakin shel shchita. If you're a shochet, you're a person who slaughters. Anyone knows a slaughterer. They keep the knives in good shape and hidden away. If someone said, "Oh, give me your slaughtering knife. I need to make a salad," you say, "Sorry, I don't use it for salads." Why? Because they take care of it. It's very hard to sharpen, and therefore you have to make sure it's very sharpened. You don't want it to get damaged. So no, I'm sorry. You find another knife, you won't have a salad. So it's set aside for only slaughtering. Sakin shamila. If for circumcision, it's only used for circumcision, obviously. Here you give them something even more important. Or less valuable. If you have paper that's only used for writing, right? You don't make paper airplanes out of them, right? It's paper that's only used for writing. How expensive could it be? It's not so expensive. You could buy a pack of paper that's only used for writing for 20 shekel, $5 for an entire pack of 300 pieces of pieces. But if it's only used for writing, never used for anything else, then it's set aside for writing. Checks. What's a star chayv? A check or a document that has value. You don't want to lose it because it's someone. Yes, you have a note that someone owes you money. The note itself is worth 5 cents, but what the note represents could be $100, right? Someone owes you $100 and has a note. You wouldn't use it for anything. Someone says, "Give me that piece of paper." No, sorry, it's a note. I need to use it for so I could collect my debt. Your accounting papers. You wouldn't use it for anything because it's important information. It's set aside in the file cabinet. Or any kind of papers that you're careful about. Now, so this applies to things that you wouldn't use because of what they represent. Then you have things that have value, but it's the same idea. Certain people have certain things that are just there for design, just there for show. Never touch them. Don't touch them. Leave them in the cabinet because they're valuable. I don't need to break it. So that's muktzeh, machmas chasar and kis. V'chein kol davar shemachmas shemak delav. Anything that you're careful about, very careful, is humi yachad le'makom ve'enim mishtamish by something that you have a set place and it's never used. V'chein kelim shebechanus. Same thing applies if you have, let's say, a shop, a store next to your house. Sha'imdim limchira. That everything you have in the store is for sale. Your clothing, you have clothing there for sale. Afilu hem klisuda, even if they're things that the things themselves you could use. Let's say you have a Bed Bath and Beyond store, right? You have forks and knives. You use forks and knives in your house, but not these forks and knives because these forks and knives are for sale. Imein darkil ashil, and as long as they're not, you don't ever lend them out because they're for sale. Someone came to your small mom and pop shop. You had silverware and said, "Could you please lend me, my friend, right? Could you please lend me the knives of your shop?" And I would say, I'll give you the knives from my kitchen. I'm not giving you the knives from my shop. The knives from my shop, I need to sell them. You can't sell them after you use them. If you're not meant to lend them out, so then they're muktzeh. But if sometimes you would lend them out, then they won't be muktzeh. Kol elu. So therefore, that's the definition of muktzeh machmas chasaron kis, of monetary loss. It's not the value of the monetary. It's about that it's important and you wouldn't use it for anything else. And therefore, it's muktzeh. It's set aside. I don't want it being touched. Is having muktzeh anything like that is considered muktzeh machmas chasaron kis. Asurim betilton, and you cannot touch them. You can't carry them. Even if you decided now, I could use this, in theory, I could use my Rolex to break something. I'm not saying a watch is muktzeh. I'm saying then that we discussed already. That for its place, you're not allowed to move it. So therefore, with the question which I was asking was on Rebecca's question about a credit card. If a credit card is on that qualification, a credit card, a bus card, you wouldn't play around with it. Why? Just like a sharpener, it's made for using the bus. So you don't want it to get lost. So maybe it's muktzeh machmas chasaron kis. So Reb Dani, why he says a bus card, he doesn't know. A credit card, he says it's not, because you get a replacement for free. But I'm not even sure about that, because the replacement for free is a hassle. It's a hassle. So maybe this is what we could be leaning on. Okay, let's see.
Sorry, can you interrupt for a second? So the kind of Metro card I was talking about is disposable. Like you could throw it out and then you can just get a new one
You have to
from a
pay for it?
machine. No, it's like 50 cents or something like that. It's
Okay.
nothing. Maybe it's free.
So in Israel, they're not free. You have to pay for Ravkav. And second of all, if there's money in it, you can't. If there's money in it, meaning, like you said, it's not. If you buy, for instance, a prepaid credit card, you go to shops and buy a prepaid credit card. You can't get that money back, right? If you go to the supermarket and buy a $50 card or an Amazon card. I mean, maybe if it has a number or something else, but if it's just something you could swipe and it's not a number-based thing that you could take the number down and then just throw the card out, you're not going to use it for anything, because if it gets lost, the money's lost. Yes, Aaron.
Okay, I just found something out, but I'm not claiming rabbis or anything on this. It just says whether a New York City Omni card, because our cards are now obsolete, so they're using this Omni card. Is Muktzeh restriction from handling on Shabbos is subject for debate among rabbis, authorities largely centered on whether it's classified as a ticket or a functioning electronic device. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
All right, so I told you there's no answers to these questions. All right, let's go. 32 hasn't been finalized. I mean, Rav Rashi did. Okay, 32 is which are used only for work prohibited on Shabbos. Okay, that's another thing. The tools, the craftsman's tools. If the craftsman's tools are used for something that's permitted on Shabbos, so it's to be something else. If it has to be craftsman tools that are for work prohibited on Shabbos, so it's the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, one could ask a question about a knife of a bris milah, because we do bris milahs on Shabbos. All right, knife of slaughtering. He says a slaughtering knife is muktzeh even on Yom Tov. Again, this is Rabbi Kiva Eger. I didn't have time to check it up. The question obviously is, you're allowed to shecht on Yom Tov. So unless today we don't do it, but if you need meat on Yom Tov, you're allowed to slaughter. So I guess I'm assuming he's talking about a case where you don't need the meat. You're not looking to slaughter on Shabbos, on Yom Tov. But if you're looking to slaughter on Yom Tov, obviously just like you do a bris milah on Yom Tov. All right, 34, which is talking about use for circumcision. The knife for circumcision. Ramah in Yeridea 266.4, and the shach permit storing the knife after completing the circumcisions other than maharal taz gra prohibited. Okay, this is the question. You do a circumcision on Shabbos, which is obviously permissible. We do circumcisions all the time on Shabbos. What is the mohel to do with the knife? We said a knife of the bris is muktzeh machmas chasaron kis. You wouldn't use it for anything other than the bris milah. The bris milah is actually to do a bris on Shabbos is an act that's prohibited. You're not allowed to cut on Shabbos to operate on someone on Shabbos. For instance, if a child is not on the 8th day, but there was the Jungus or what have you. You don't do a bris on Shabbos if the doctor says today the child's able. You push her. If you push it off, you push off the Sunday. The only bris on the 8th day is docha the Shabbos, but it's docha the Shabbos. It's not. So if it's docha the Shabbos, that's a whole question. Keeping the hutra, if it doesn't mean that everything becomes mutter, or if it's just every act is pushing away the Shabbos because of the prohibition, the positive commandment of the circumcision on the 8th day overrides the prohibitions of Shabbos. That's a discussion. So he says that the Ramah, the Shach, permit properly storing the knife after the circumcision, where the Maharal, Taz, who we learned about the Taz, the story in the Gra, or the Gaon of Vilna, say no, it's prohibited. He doesn't say, obviously, you don't just leave the knife on the table, because then it's a security risk. Maybe he means just to drop it in the bag. I'm not sure. I have to pay attention next time there's a bris, what they do with the knife after the bris. I don't remember it being a scene. Okay. Accounting letters that are to take care, that you take care to safeguard. It means anything that's important. The owner determines whether that object is worthwhile safeguarding. Today would be a baseball card, right? Could you play with your baseball cards on Shabbos? Right? Everyone knows, and anyone who's collected baseball cards as kids knows, or your stamp collection, right? That part of the value, if you're collecting it for value, is its condition. A baseball card gets a little bend or a little corner and something, it loses tremendous value. People are very careful how they handle the cards. That's surely something. That's Muktzeh. The actual paper on it is nothing. It's worth 3 cents. Its value is it's the sentimental value that the group of people that collect baseball cards or stamps have applied to the value of cards. So that would obviously be something that would be Muktzeh machmach sarnkis. Okay, 36. Which is important to know. It means if it depends also when he says you determine, for instance, today we keep when I was collecting baseball cards or football cards. So when you buy it when you have a certain case, so then you can handle it because the case protects it. So then already it's not muktzeh anymore because it's protected. You're not. But I'm assuming then it wouldn't be a problem. Or a stamp collection that's in a proper folder that people show each other because it's protected in its position, then it's no longer something that's chasar gis because as it is, you wouldn't take it out of its folder, but you would keep once it's in its safe place, people show each other. Possibly you'd be allowed. Okay, 36. As well as anything that you are careful about to keep in a special place. To be considered muktzeh machas chasar gis, muktzeh due to monetary loss, the owner must be averse to the object be moved needlessly. So says the Shar Atzion 310-310-119 from Beis Meir as interpreted by Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Zatzal. So he says that the owner of this object has to be averse. It means never to take it out of its space. So then that qualifies as muktzeh machmach sarnkis. I'm not sure what he's coming to point out over here versus what's the other option. I'm not sure what the other scenario would be. Okay. And do not use it the vessel in the store or to handle for sale. Okay, if you have things in the store for sale. Food, however, even if intended for sale, is not muktzeh. The Magen Avram says if you own a shop, then the food is not muktzeh. So says the Mishnah Brura and the Or Sameach, Shabbos 25:9. Footnote number, I think that's the last one. Yes. Let's continue. What about things, and this again can apply to credit card, things that are not considered a vessel at all, like eitzim, avanim, chtichas barzel, wood, stones, chunks of metal, etc. Also, gamke mechol tilted prohibited in any kind of carrying, even if you need to use it or its space. Unless you have set it aside before Shabbos for some permanent use. Permanent is the dagesh here. Something that's never usually has any kind of value. It's not a vessel for anything like a stone. If you before Shabbos set it aside for a permanent use, then you could transform it from being a useless item to a useful item. Therefore, you may not handle a splinter, which was from a branch, to pick your teeth because it was part of a tree before. Not like a toothpick. A toothpick is always set aside. That's another question. If you could pick your teeth, about the blood and all that, that's another question. He gives another example. Broken candles. Broken candles, which mean that you have no use for them. You can't use broken candles. Before we said that candles, wax, or made out of fat or wax, if you need a use for them, I'm not sure what the use would be. If I remember correctly, we said the footnote was that not everyone agrees with candles, right? Where do we have candles? Wax. So he says over here, others rule that the candles have no use whatsoever. But according to the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch holds that there is a use for candles, but that's whole candles. But broken candles are like stones. You never use them. You're not allowed to use them at all. Sulam. What about a ladder? Shalaliyah that's used to go upstairs, like to your attic. Ain alav teres keli. It's not called a keli, and you can't move it on Shabbos. It doesn't mean you can't climb in it, but you can't move it. Let's see the footnotes. Footnote number 38. Unless you set it aside before Shabbos for permanent use. It says, in other words, mentally, it's not necessary to verbalize your intent. Okay, you don't have to gather the whole family together and say, family, we're having a meeting because for now on, this stone that's in the backyard is going to be used as a nutcracker, right? It doesn't have to be a whole ceremony. As long as you make a mental note that you're going to start using it for something permanently, that's enough. So this is the Chayadim Nishabrura, disagreeing with Prima Gadim, I guess, who says maybe you have to make it more of a ceremony. Setting aside also applies to Muktzeh due to monetary loss, so says Reb Kiva Eiger, that if you set something aside and say that although usually it's for monetary loss, but now I no longer have that concern, so making a mental note is enough, and it's no longer can be Muktzeh Machmach Chesaron Kis, but it says over here it has to be for permanent use. Where you intend to use, what does it mean permanent use? Where you intend to use these items, wood, stones, in a way that is a commonplace. In other words, to use round stones for opening nuts, that you can use the stone always for opening nuts. It is unnecessary to set it aside for more than that Shabbos. Okay, so here he said like this. Let's just see the note. Where you intend to use these items wood in any way that is a commonplace. In other words, to use a round stone for opening nuts, it is unnecessary to set it aside for more than that Shabbos. So he says permanent means that Shabbos. So this is the Shulchan Aruch, Rav, Mishnah Brura, etc. Okay, so permanent doesn't mean forever, ever. It means for that Shabbos. Candles that are broken, they're no longer fit to be lit. So therefore, they're like broken, they're like stones. And a ladder. What's the deal with the ladder? The Pri Megadim, citing Rambam, Mishnah Brura 308 tour, allows moving the ladder on Shabbos and not on Yom Tov. So we're more careful on Shabbos than Yom Tov because, we are more careful a lot of the times on Shabbos, on Yom Tov over Shabbos because of the things that are permissible on Yom Tov. The Gra rules, means the Gaon of Vilna, that only moving the ladder to another location is forbidden, lest it seem that you are on the way to repair the roof. Moving it in its place is permitted. It means to move it within its own initial space is permitted, but to use it for something else is prohibited. I don't know if we still have it, but when we were kids growing up, they had the what do they call them? Bunk beds that had movable ladders. I think today they must try to be more careful with those because it could fall off. But the movable ladders, so that you could move around the bed according to the Gaon of Vilna. You just can't move it to another place because then people are going to think that you're moving it to do something forbidden on Shabbos. So it doesn't say clearly it's when the fact that he says lest it seem means that could be this falls under less the question of Muktzeh and more the question of Maris Ayin. Maris Ayin is when people may think. So here he puts it in the halacha of Muktzeh. But based on what the Gra is saying, so basically what he's quoting is like this, just to understand the Gra clearly. If you're not allowed to move it at all, then it's a question of Muktzeh. If you can move it around its initial space, I mean, it's not Muktzeh because you're moving around its initial space. So then why can't you move it to someplace else? Because someone may think you're about to fix your roof, right? So then then according to the Gra, it doesn't even belong in this law because it's not a question of Muktzeh, it's a question of Marasayin. Okay. Means Marasayin means that someone will misinterpret what your actions are. All right, let's do one more law, and then we'll just kind of talk it out until the rest of the class is over. Something that could be used for both, only for permissible or prohibited. For instance, kedeiros, pots. Pots could be for storage, or could be used for cooking. Cooking is prohibited. Even if the kelim are, the utensils are dirty. If on Shabbos, if something is mius, means is disgusting, it's still permissible to use. Then you don't have to have it machmas gufay or machmas makoyme just to use it for a use. Even if you just want to move it so it shouldn't be stolen or broken, you can move it. But just to hold things for no reason, also talton, then you can't. The case for kodesh v'achol, however, holy books, writings, or food, you could just throw around an apple in your hand if that's what you want to do. That's not a problem. But things like that are pots and pans, just to pick them up and move them for no reason, you're not allowed to. Okay, now let's just do the footnotes on this. He says like this. See note 19, Mishnah Berurah 308:20. Utensils generally used for cooking and not for storing food, such as frying pans, would be muktzeh unless they contained food at twilight of Shabbos, Friday. Meaning to say, let's say you want to serve stir fry on Friday night on Shabbos. So you stir fry before Shabbos. You leave it in the frying pan. Frying pan is only used for frying, but now you have food there and you want to keep the food there for Shabbos. So then you could hold the frying pan and move it around because it had the food crossing over into the Shabbos. If they were later emptied on Shabbos, you finished eating the stir fry, then it is preferable not to handle them because a frying pan is only used for frying. It's not used for storage usually. Minchas Shabbos Bir halacha 308.4 seems to concur with this halacha. Pots that you use for cooking as well as storing food are not muktzeh. So if you have pots that are always used for both, now the question is what those pots are. And what does it mean storage? Like if you make rice in your pot or soup is also, you always store food. I'm not sure. I mean, a frying pan. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong about the wok, but you make a stir fry in because maybe people do store it in there, but definitely people store. If you have leftover chicken soup, you keep it in the bowl. You put it in the fridge. If you have leftover chicken, you cover it and you put it back in the fridge. But you have things that are usually only used for the cooking, and once you cook it, you finish. That if you happen to leave the food in there to use it for Shabbos, then you could handle it if the food was there before Shabbos. Once you finish, better stop using it after you emptied it out. What are we talking about over here? Oh, yeah, so Muktzeh machmas mius. Okay. 43, 44, he says like this. However, if there's no need for handling them, you are forbidden to handle them. It means if you're just holding them for no reason. The majority of poskim can permit the handling of non-muktzeh items such as dishes and cutlery, even when there's no purpose whatsoever. So this is Shulchan Aruch 308, Rambam Shulchan Aruch Rav, Chai Adam. Only Shilte Giborim disagree, and so is the Mishnah Berurah cites both opinions. So the questions about dishes is kind of, most opinions are that even for no reason you could pick up the bowls. You don't have to have major intention or purpose for it. 45 is foods you could handle. This does not apply to animal food. To animal food is not something you could handle, so says the Pri Megadim, for no reason. All right, any questions?
Yeah. Okay. Just to bring up the subject that she brought up, again, so I'm just going to say this. It's not a Jewish thing. This is just how it works. And the Omni cards work the same. Anything with a near field chip in it or RFID, it says, yes, the computer chip on a credit card is indeed electric using radio waves to get power from the reader and send encrypted data functions as a tiny secure computer that processes transactions without needing its own battery. So it gets its power from the reader. And then it says at the bottom, there's a bunch of different things, but we don't have to go through it all. But it says secure, it says, in essence, the chip is a mini battery-free computer that communicates using electricity induced by the payment terminal. So use that as you may to find your answer.
Right, thank you, Aaron. Again, it seems like a subject that needs to be more examined further. Yes, Rebecca.
Do we know yet about the key fob? If you could carry a key fob on Shabbos on your keychain, or if it's Muktzeh?
Again, it's a question if it's I don't know in Eretz Yisrael, if you go to the YMCA or you go to the mikvah, then you have to put a deposit on it. So they're pretty sturdy, they're pretty durable, but you don't want to lose it. You have a deposit on it. The question is if that makes it a Muktzeh machmas chasar kis. Also, it doesn't have any use on Shabbos that's permissible. So I can't understand why you'd be able to have it on your keychain on Shabbos.
Okay, got it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Laila Tov, Shavua Tov, and a good job.